Hello and welcome. This is FIDE Master Vedant Goswami. Today, we are going to see the final game from the FIDE Grand Swiss 2023, the game in which Vidit Santosh Gujarati of India defeated Predke and went on to win the biggest tournament of his life, one of the strongest chess tournaments ever to be held in the history of chess, and also to qualify for the FIDE candidates leading up to the World Championship 2024. So let us start. It's the final round game, lot of stakes. So Vidit started with d4, d5, c4, the queen's gambit. Predke replies with the queen's gambit accepted, and Vidit goes for nf3, nf6, e3, opening up the diagonal of the bishop, planning to recover the pawn, e6, bishop c4, and a6. Vidit continues with castle and c5, very thematic. Black attacks the white center, and the stronghold in the center, the pawn on d4. Now there are many continuations possible. The knight can come to c3, the pawn can capture, queen e2, preparing rook d1. Multiple options are there for white, but this being a very important game, Vidit wanted to keep it risk-free and goes for this very solid and kind of boring variation with exchanges of the queen very early in the opening. So bishop c5 was played, queen d8, king into d8, and bishop e2. So one of the decisions that Vidit has made here is to keep the game very simple so that there is no risk of actually losing the game, which will spoil his chances of either winning the tournament or going to the candidates. So king e7, knight b to d2, bishop d7, and knight b3 was played. Bishop retreats to b6 and bishop d2, threatening the move bishop b4 and threatening to destroy the coordination of the black pieces, as then the king has to go back and the rooks are no longer connected. Knight c6 was played, a good developing move, and preventing the same idea, bishop b4, bishop c3. So improving the position of the bishop, putting it on the long diagonal, and also slightly restricting the movement of this knight because now it will lead to the capture of the pawn on g7. Predke plays rook g8, a decent defensive move, and now the knight is free to move because the pawn on g7 is supported. Vidit continues development in the center with rook f to d1, rook a to d8, and rook a to c1. Something very important and something I see lot of players miss doing is that completing development. So one of the biggest difference in the games of very strong players versus not so strong, and is that the strong players will always complete their development and put their pieces in the best positions possible before actually looking for a fight. Predke here plays g5, shows his intention of continuing the fight, not trying to settle into a draw, because win for him means qualification for him to the candidates. But let us say how Vidit continues. Knight f to d4. Vidit is playing very simple, very solid positional chess. It is not easy to unsettle white in this position because there are no weaknesses. So knight into d4 and bishop b4, a very nice intermezzo, giving a check and slightly discoordinating the black pieces. If you see now, the rooks are no longer connected and white's position is slightly more pleasant and simple to play. Knight takes on d4 and Predke plays g4 with the two ideas is restricting the advance of white pawns in the king side, and also at some point bringing the rook into the game via the g5 square, because other way it is not possible because of the very powerful bishop on b4. So we see white has a small natural advantage because black cannot play very simple moves and has to organize his pieces using some creativity. So knight b3 was played, rook to g5 and knight to c5. Very nice maneuver, improving the position of the knight from d4, where it was not attacking anything, to the very powerful square c5, where it attacks the black's pawn structure on b7 and a6, and lot of other things are in striking range. Bishop c6 was played, and white gets this beautiful tactics, knight into a6. If pawn takes a6, suddenly the bishop is unsupported and can be captured, leaving white with a winning position. Predke plays knight d7. The idea is to restrict the knight from moving back, because right now there's no place for the knight to move. Vidit finds this move, bishop f1, rook 8, and bishop to d6. A very nice continuation. Still, white is in no danger of losing any piece, because pawn into knight again is leading to rook into c6, while rook takes, bishop into a6, and pawn into a6. Again, white is winning the bishop on c6. Bishop d6, planning to rescue the bishop with knight to c7. Bishop a4 was played. Vidit plays bishop f4, rook a5, knight c7 check, bishop takes, bishop into d1, and bishop into a5. So white, Vidit, went for a line which simplifies the position a lot and leaves white with no risk of losing at all. So which is something which exactly suits the situation that Vidit is in. Rook into a5 and rook d1. If you see now, you might have a question why black can't capture it, because then bishop b5 is a pin and black ends up losing the piece on d7. So knight e5 was played. Other option was king e7, maybe a better alternative. Bringing the king to the center, always a good option in the endings. So knight e5 was played, and white played this very nice move a4, planning to anchor the bishop on b5, and rook into a4 cannot be played because of the double attack with bishop b5, winning the white rook. Rook c5, and this is the position which I found extremely impressive in the way Vidit handled it. So it looks like black has some activity for his pieces, though he's a pawn down, and such positions are not very easy to convert because black pieces are very active. So it is extremely instructive and shows the very deep understanding that Vidit possesses in the way he handled this position. So one of the key things in chess is to try to activate all your pieces to the maximum. So in this position, if you see, white chances are on the queen side, where he has the possibility to create a passed pawn, and also the pawn on b7 is slightly weak. Okay, so white Vidit plays this very powerful move, rook d4. Okay, allowing this pin, which looks like very dangerous, because now the bishop can't move, the white king cannot participate in the game. But Vidit has seen a very beautiful continuation involving giving back the pawn and getting a totally winning position by, in turn, winning the b7 pawn and just pushing the pawns on the queen side to their queening destination. So rook b4, a very powerful move, attacking the weakness on b7, rook b1. And here, extremely instructive move, F4 was played. This really shows the deep understanding that Vidit possesses, giving back the pawn, but freeing up his bishop and the king to be able to participate in the game. En passant, capture was made, pawn takes knight f3 and king g2. Now, suddenly we see white has destroyed his pawn structure on the king side, but that is not what is relevant. He has even lost a pawn, but it is not what is relevant. What is relevant is the pawn on b7 and two white connected pass pawns on the queen side. And the game ends quickly after knight d2, bishop d3 attacking the rook, rook e1, king f2, rook h1, and now king g2 again. Maybe a small repetition to gain some time for the approaching time control on the move 40th. It is already 37th move. Rook e1 was played and rook into b7. Now white has a very simple plan to win the game. Just push the pawn on the a4 square and promote. So rook into e3 was played. Bishop b5 check, gaining a tempo in order to be able to advance the pawn. King f8 and a5. Rook e5 was played. a6, rook g5, king f2, knight e4, king e3, knight d6. And here white made a very thematic move, a7. Knight b7 is not an issue because we promote with a check and we win the knight on b7. Rook e5 was played, and now the only thing white has to do is to run away from the check. So king f3, rook f5, king g2, rook g5, and king h1. At this position, Predke resigned. This is a very small trap, showing that even in the most of the winning of the positions, you have to be careful because black can make a move like any four, white queens, and king g7. So let us say you make a move like, let us say, rook b7. It is checkmate. So basically, this is just something to show that, okay, even in most winning of the positions, you should not relax and be aware of what are the opponent plan. Of course, Vidit saw this, and his opponent also knew this can be easily prevented because after check, king moves, queen a7 is a very simple winning move, preventing the knight to f2. Okay, so a very interesting, a very impressive game by Vidit, leading to one of the greatest successes he has ever had in tournament chess, and his move to the candidates. So with this, we'll conclude this video and wish Vidit good luck for his upcoming candidates tournament, where he will join another Indian, Pragnananda. With that, I'll say bye and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.